Welcome to the NWO show, your source for all things New World. For those that are new to the show, we have a Discord server that hosts the single largest public database of in-game screenshots, videos, and concept art from the game. The link will be in the description below and in the Twitch chat. The show is recorded live on Twitch and syndicated to YouTube shortly after, so if you miss a show any week or any time that we air, we do post them up on our YouTube channel. You can find us at the New World Order on both New World Order show on Twitch TV and New World Order on YouTube. With me, I also have my co-host, McLeod. McLeod, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Hi, guys. My name is McLeod. I'm a professional audio engineer and a content developer. I have community moderation experience, particularly with like raid-style MMOs, as well as I've been a decade-long accounting veteran of the MMO EVE Online, and have been basically, doing high-level critique of that game for quite some time. It's actually where I met A's.
Awesome. So for those that don't know me, I am Commander A's. I formerly did a little bit of semi-professional FPS gaming. I'm also one of the moderators for the New World subreddit r New World Game. I'm joined by McLeod, and generally we'll also have Bard Coast, who's likely going to be on tomorrow's episode, but we haven't had a chance to have him on the air in quite a few episodes, so it'd be good to have him back. So recently we've had a variety of different dev blogs come out that we have not had a chance to cover. So let's talk about New World. So one of the 3 dev blogs that we covered yesterday, we went in and talked about items in New World, and a lot of the things that we talked about focused on the variety and being prepared for what you were about to get into. So having the right items gets you set up for buffing yourself out in specific ways to make yourself more competitive in different situations. So now we're going to talk about the characters and how you build yourself over time to become more competitive in, again, specific ways. Because you can only, there are limits on how much you can do to your character. So we're going to start off with attributes. The attributes, generally, these are a pretty standardized thing across pretty much every MMO, RPG style game. Your strength, your dex, your intelligence, focus, constitution, and they all give you perks of some sort. So if you're going to build a tank, you're probably going to want a high constitution, so you got a lot of health. But at the same time, you're going to have probably low dexterity because you're not going to be doing a lot of range if you're tanking. So filtering those and using the right combination is going to be pretty important for individuals. These attributes are capped at 60 points, soft capped. So, let's say you put all of your points into strength, you can only get 60 in there. Now, that doesn't mean that 60 is going to be the max score that you can ever get. So this is where items come into play. I'm going to pop back over to an item image here, where you can see on the Platinum Stalwart Amulet that there's a Stalwart 3 bonus, which gives you +4 Constitution. So even though you had the ability to cap that at 60 in your Constitution, it's not actually capped at 60 in that you can buff out your character by putting in the right equipment. So that's kind of an important factor there.
Now, it's not entirely certain, and they haven't really kind of gone into quite how this works, but they have said, specifically in the article, that although it's soft capped at 60 points, when you go beyond the soft cap, there's diminishing returns beyond that point. They haven't actually said quite how severe those diminishing returns are. So a +4 might seem as though you're adding 4 Constitution to your, say, 60 Constitution that you've already got, but it's not entirely certain as to how much those 4 are actually worth, because it could be the diminishing returns could be a 50% diminishing return, so you might only have like an effective only +2, but whether that is up to 60 and then diminishing returns, or like 60 points wherever, and then there's no diminishing returns up until the point where you get a specific attribute past 60.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
Yeah. So and I think that kind of plays to making the best possible choices. So it might not be in your best interest to okay, hey, I've got 60 points in strength, and I'm gonna keep buffing out strength. It might be better with those diminishing returns to say, okay, maybe I want to buff out my health and add Constitution, or maybe maybe equipping myself right, as a mage, I've got a decent amount of intelligence, I've got a good amount of Constitution, but I'm going to use my points from my gear to buff up my focus so that I can get better mana regen and lower cooldowns. So there's some kind of interplay between those, which comes. I haven't seen that in a lot of games where you actually have a solid interplay between the gear that you choose to bring and your actual attributes and stuff like that. So I'm pretty happy.
It's an interesting kind of way of playing with the with attribute points and the spread of attribute points, along with the gear that obviously that you have in to basically do something that you want to do in game. And obviously a lot of RPGs, a lot of role-playing games have these elements, but they have these elements where you choose where you want to put your points, and that's it. The nice thing is that New World allows you to respec, not for free. It does come with a cost, but it's not a throw cash at at Amazon Games to do so. It's an in-game thing.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing, and I believe they stated that you can respec at a lower level. Respecs are free to players in the early game, so you have an opportunity to experience all of the different types of equipment. So probably I would imagine sub level 20. They'll give you options. Okay, try out the sword for a while, try out the bow for a while, try out the magic and staves and stuff like that. See what works for you. Then once you hit that level, okay, hey, now you're gonna need to pay a fee. And actually in the picture here, it looks like it's 2,000 gold to respec your character. So that's that's pretty reasonable.
Well, I mean, that's all. I mean, that kind of thing is all based on how, particularly where Amazon Games wants to actually balance that. In a sense, a lot of people, we don't really have any kind of like way of determining quite how expensive 2,000 gold is. To be completely honest, we'll find that out in the beta, obviously, and we'll get a better sense as to whether 2,000 gold is too much, too little, and so will Amazon Games. So they might push it up a bit, they might push it down a bit. Who knows?
So, and of course, these are all work in progress. So everything is up to some level of change. So they could easily go in and go, okay, it's 2,000 might not be the right one, or they might scale it by your level. Might cost less to change after level, between level 20 and 30 or more later on. So there's a lot that could change there that obviously isn't in the dev blog that we don't know for sure. So moving along, there's other ways of building out your character. It's not just, do I have the right stats for this? You also have to level up all of the different trade skills. So I mean that's pretty substantial. So you're gonna have to sit there and actually go, okay, do I want to be a weaponsmith? Do I want to get into armoring? Do I want to be an engineer? Do I want to be a jewelry crafter? And each one of these things, you're gonna have to put a substantial amount of effort into building your character into it. So let's say you're the best weaponsmith on the server, and you can build the highest end gear, with all the perks and all the everything that you can possibly do. But you might at the same time be god awful at making armor. So there's gonna be some counterplay there and choices that you're gonna have to make. Or you're gonna have to spend a very long time getting each one of these things leveled up. So there might actually be some play there where a company or a group of people is going to have to focus and put effort into this guy is going to be our weaponsmith, and we're going to go out and we're going to collect and we're going to mine, we're going to log, we're going to skin and track, and we're going to harvest all this stuff necessary for this guy to get a high level in this, so that we have somebody that we can rely on to build equipment for us. So there is going to be a level of specialization there. The way that this plays out, or could play out, is that super long-term gaming, you could potentially become very proficient at everything. But I think that's going to take you a very long time to do.
Yeah, essentially, like the old adage of jack of all trades, master of none, kind of comes into play here. Like obviously, eventually, over a long enough time period, you will end up being able to have the time to be a master of everything. But especially when early game as such, like is a term that a lot of people tend to use. For persistent MMOs, it's a little bit less so, but especially when it comes to outfitting your guys, early on in your in the start of playing New World, it will be fairly critical to to be a master of a single thing and not a jack of all trades, because you'll be able to outfit your people, your crew, your gang kind of thing, much quicker with better stuff.
And yes, in New World, it's referred to as company. Sorry, old habits die hard. Every time I think company, like I think of Corp, which brings me back to playing Eve, and then I end up thinking guild because I'm used to describing Eve to people who have not played Eve, and if you tell people you're part of a company in Eve Online, they start thinking about like, well, are a corporation in Eve Online? Then they're like, well, what do you mean by that?
As a Brit, I've as a Brit, we Brits have tried to disassociate ourselves with the form of company, because it has somewhat negative connotations in our history somewhat.
Yeah. All I have to say is I'm waiting for the first company to be called the East India Trading Company. Because it's time relevant. It's to answer the question going on in chat here, why I'm not streaming alpha gameplay, is it's actually against the non-disclosure agreement, so I literally can't do it. The second the beta goes live, I will be streaming the game. Like,
you can bet your ass we will be streaming the game.
Yeah.
From the second it goes live.
And anybody who's in the alpha cannot stream the alpha. It is against the non-disclosure agreement. You cannot do anything with that. So, even though you didn't sign a paper NDA per the agreement for the game terms and conditions, it's unfortunate, but that's unfortunately the reality of that. But going back into this, so you also got people that are going to have to specialize in gathering. So you might be able to specialize in gathering specific things that'll work well into your into your area. So like your Arcana people are probably going to be gathering your herbs and spices and stuff like that are going to be able to bring in stuff and kind of specialize what they're gathering or potentially harvesting and utilizing as their crafting skill.
Now,
So
yeah.
that'll add
Now,
a little bit challenge to it.
yeah. I mean, as I can see from this, the particular image that you have up on screen, like so long as this is sort of somewhat accurate in what Amazon Games is going to be shipping, it definitely looks like there's not a soft cap of 60. Like the attribute points have a soft cap of 60, because obviously on tracking and skinning there is 62, so clearly it goes higher than that.
Yes. So I think it's interesting that it doesn't cap it, or it doesn't appear to have the same cap. So that's
Now, where if that actually does have a top level or an end level, or whether it just progresses to infinity, we don't know. But like, there's also the other thing that isn't really kind of discussed or mentioned here is like the level of progression, because obviously, if you have a linear progression through these various different things, it can. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about progression levels? Whether it should be linear, should it be logarithmic, should going from level 62 to level 63 be extremely difficult in comparison to going from level, say, 10 to a level 11?
Yes.
Like in these particular things, like, do you feel that is worthwhile?
Yes, and I also really hope that they don't have an end cap for this, because that way you can literally be the best. You'll literally be that guy who goes, I've got weapons smithing, 500, or 6, and then you got somebody who comes back and goes, well, I've got it at, 510, and then you're like, no, I need to go make a whole bunch more gear,
So the first person to get levels like weapon smithing level 9001 will be the winner.
Yes.
You literally win the internet.
Yes. That'll be just awesome. So, and I'm sure there's benefits to getting these higher and higher level. Probably being able to unlock different things or different abilities within that.
So they kind of say a little bit on how that kind of functions. I did have in my mind kind of like how the XP pooling kind of works with regards to crafting and leveling up these particular skills. Whether it levels up in a sort of family tree of various different things, or whether it's specific to those particular tiers or not. But I think I remember seeing in somewhere in here it says something along the lines of like not in those particular words, but it's kind of like that it's a sort of a family tree kind of thing. So like it's the XP is just bundled into all of the, say, weaponsmithing skill, and it that particular skill basically applies to all of the various different tiers of weapons.
Yeah.
Which to me, I like that makes sense from a kind of like it functions and it works and it's understandable for people to work through. But to me, it kind of feels like it's a little bit less grindy, yeah. But it also, to me, has this kind of feel of like, say, jewelry crafting, for example, right? Like the only reason why I'm using jewelry crafting in this particular example is because the materials and specifically the metals that are used, the characteristic of those metals are vastly different. If you're working in silver, that has a profoundly different feel and sort of like, it's profoundly different feeling and crafting silver than it is to crafting gold, for example. But I feel like, if you make like, say, silver jewelry to the lowest extent that you need to in order to progress to gold jewelry, for example, when you progress those gold jewelry, you'll probably be really, really good at silver.
Mhm.
I kind of feel like that breaks a little bit of like realism, I guess. And but I suppose massive monsters kind of break the realism as well. So
So
to each his own.
a couple of key things here. So as you level your refining skill, so you build up your refining skill, it's going to make you more resource efficient. So
Yeah.
higher level refiners have a chance to gain extra refined resources while they refine. So if you've got a level 500, guy who's really good at refining your iron ore, you're going to want him to do your refining because he's going to be able to get a bonus amount of refined resources out of that. He's going to get those iron ingots that you're going to need in a higher quantity. So, gives a benefit to be good at the refining skills. But also when it comes to crafting,
less wastage. Yeah.
leveling a crafting skill unlocks more recipes and more powerful versions of them, along with some of the other things we'll go over in more detail in the upcoming crafting article. Happy they said that because that's the next dev blog, of which we'll cover probably tomorrow because there's a major announcement that's coming out on the PC Gaming Show. For those that don't know, the PC Gaming Show is coming out tomorrow, 11 o'clock a.m. 11 o'clock a.m.
Is that Eastern time?
Pacific
EST?
time, I believe.
Pacific.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So, we're going to pop
That's
that
easier
article
for you.
up here.
That's harder for me.
Yeah. So 11 a.m. Pacific time, June 13th, which is in fact tomorrow. Yes.
For me, it's today.
Yeah, for you, yeah. I don't know what it's like living in the future, but must be nice.
2020 still sucks.
So there's a no, I would not like notifications there. So there's a lot of different announcement here. So don't tempt me. So there's 50 games that are going to have some sort of trailer, reveal, interview of some kind. Amazon Games specifically making an announcement about New World. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch for. We don't know when in the lineup it's going to be. It would be great if they did it alphabetically, so we don't have to watch, everyone else go, and then, But that said, I'll be tuning in and waiting for that announcement to find out what exactly they're bringing out.
Surgeon Simulator 2. Okay.
I mean, part of me wants to kind of see what that is. Just to be that guy, but yeah. So anyways, going back to this, there's also weapon masteries. So, utilizing a weapon gains you XP with that weapon for that weapon's masteries. There are what appears to be, based on the image here, 20 levels on each weapon. Now, it looks like if you follow along on this, there are 13 out of 20 currently selected on here. So, are 12 out of 20 currently selected. So they probably have one extra point that they could spend somewhere. But you're going to have to make choices. If there's only 20, there are more than 20 options on here. So you're going to have to make a committed decision to, do I want this throwing axe to be for throwing, or do I want it to be for melee?
There's 19 points available because you always start at level 1.
Do you?
Well, look at it. It says commit 12 points. He hasn't committed all 12. Like he's selected 12 points. He's there to commit 12 points. And there's no points available, and he's at level 13.
True. Very true. So each weapon mastery has 2 skill trees. Each skill tree has a selection of active abilities. So these are the large ones. Passive modifiers and bonuses, which are the small ones. that are exclusive to that weapon. So, this has various different ones for probably throwing, a targeted throw or a quick throw, or I'm just guessing based on the icons here.
Spin throw, that kind of thing. Yeah.
There's probably, judging from the skull, probably a headshot perk, or something like that. It's got a timer, so maybe it's a cooldown bonus or something like that.
What the mouth is, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, got me. That one's a little out there. So the key here is that if you want to be good in every weapon, you're going to have to spend a lot of time leveling each weapon. So this again is a level of you need to be good with the equipment that you have, but you need to bring the equipment that you're good with. So like if you spent your whole time, building up your character to be great with the throwing axe, great with the, or great with the sword, and you bring a bow and a magic staff, you're probably going to have a pretty rough time. Because you're not going to have, you're not going to have all these bonuses and all these other things. So that's going to give a level of commitment to what you're doing and how you're building out your character, but also reward you for, hey, I've got a specialty. I'm good at this, which seems to be what their entire progression system goes for. Be good at certain gear. Be good at certain crafting. Be good at certain gathering. Be good at certain refining. Build your character intentionally for what you were trying to do, and make choices with your equipment and items based on what's going to be best for your character in the scenario that you're going into.
Now,
that's a lot of player choice involved in that.
There is a lot of player choice involved in that, for sure. Yeah. What I would say though is, going into the game, it's probably going to be one of those things where you're going to be presented with a lot of choices and you have no idea which way to go. Do I throw points into dexterity or intelligence or constitution? Like, should I make my character have a lot of hit points, or do I need my character to be really dexterous, kind of thing? Like, it depends entirely on what you want to do, and hopefully when you actually come to playing the game in full release, we will have created at least some guides for you to figure out how to make that choice as to how you want to play, and where is basically best to put your points, and what kind of gear to eventually go to and get.
Yeah. So I kind of like that. I think that there's some good opportunities here. There are some potential challenges with this, in that it might confuse some people. Like, this level of player choice, somebody's going to sit there and go, I've got all of my maxed out tier 5 gear, I should be good in every situation. Well, they're going to get real confused when they get dunked by an enemy that has, that hits their resistance hole on their armor. Like,
yeah, because if you're set up to be an absolute tank for high constitution and heavy steel armor, well, not steel armor, but like the high tier armors, like Aura Calcum, for example. You're gonna be inherently vulnerable to basically magic and that kind of damage. So just being a tank doesn't actually make you a tank for everything.
So now, the other thing I want to touch on here is when it comes to trade skills, it's not just about leveling your character by doing, it's also about having the right equipment to do what you are doing. So if you are, for instance, a jewelry crafting expert, this is your jam, this is what you want to be good at, you're going to want to look for items that give you a jewelry crafting bonus. So, like the Platinum Stalwart Amulet here, you're going to be looking for certain perks and bonuses that give you, what you need to be better at what you're doing. So it's not just a matter of being good, it's a matter of being an expert and bringing the right things at the right time for the right purpose.
And there's some interesting things in the crafting article that we're going to do tomorrow that plays specifically to that, which gives an interesting twist to the whole thing, which is nice.
Yeah. Now, I want to touch on something that's not in these articles. I want to talk about AGS and how they develop a game. AGS has a specific set of goals on how they go about this. They're looking at what makes the users like things. What drives them to do what they do? Why are they doing certain things? Why do they want to do certain things? What makes something good? What makes something bad? How do we fix the things that are bad? How do we listen to the feedback to make things better? Now, obviously, they made some big changes that pissed a lot of people off. Those people have been very vocal and are still very vocal, specifically the PvP changes. Now, it is what it is. Amazon made a choice based on the data they had, based on the feedback that they gathered, that hey, this probably isn't the direction we want to go. We want to have something bigger, and they shelved the project. They brought things around to a new vision. Here is the new route. Now, that said, they've also announced that they're gonna cover this for 10 years. They're going to continue development post-launch. They're going to continue to build on the game. Now, anybody out there who says that this game is going to be the WoW killer needs to realize that WoW has 20 plus years of development. In that time, they have revamped just about every system. They have fundamentally changed mechanics, and they've changed directions multiple times. So it took time to get where they were.
Yeah, and the capacity for a game like New World to end up at a scenario that is, or end up at an endpoint for the game, or not really an endpoint, but end up at a point where the game doesn't even look or feel anything remotely like it does when it starts, when it's initially released. That's entirely possible. That happened to World of Warcraft, and the initial start of World of Warcraft and how it felt, near the end of its kind of, its arc of glory. It's it's a completely different game in comparison.
Yeah. Now, why do I say this? Why do I want to go there? Because that's the natural question. Why poke at, hey, are there going to be things that are wrong? Of course there's going to be things that are wrong. Now, when we go into beta, there's going to be a whole new group of people that are suddenly going, hey, what if this mechanic did this? This is why I would feel better if this mechanic would do this thing. Or it would be better if this worked, or if this, for instance, like what we said earlier, let's say, for instance, maybe they put a level cap on these, crafting, refining, and gathering. Well, maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe they sit there and get feedback from the community and go, hey, I don't think there should be a level cap on this. I think it should just go infinitely, and make it so that you can really stand out on a server for something, and give them a good reason for that, and that should enable them to possibly make changes. I'm gonna cut away for about 3 minutes, and I'm gonna have the AGS trailer play, because they describe this better than I can, and it shows based on the development cycles and the news cycles that we've seen on the game, so much more so than I can describe, and I think it's worth people seeing this trailer.
Yeah, so I might either be a lot more content with AGS after this, or I might be enraged. It depends entirely on which one you play. I don't know which one you're going to play, but go for it.
It's not about the couch anymore. It's not about the server multiplayer. It's all about this massive shared experience.
First thing we think about is community when we're building a game.
What if a game was built for Twitch? What would that mean? What would that look like?
We're going to try things that combine the cloud, that combine our new Lumberyard engine, that combine Twitch into brand new experiences.
Principally, it's this idea that you have a player, a broadcaster, and a viewer all sharing in a live synchronous experience.
We're going straight for the Twitch customer. We're inspired by the way they play. We're inspired by the way they share. And we want to make a product that's worthy of them.
What we found is our designers and our creative talent in the studios have come up with remarkably fascinating ideas. It comes down to experimentation.
Crucible is a last one standing, third-person shooter in which 12 hunters enter an alien hostile world, but only one emerges victorious. Because the world itself is dangerous, players have to work together, but unlike a lot of team games, players can actually make or break alliances on the fly, so you have to kind of watch your back. Crucible also has a new type of player, a 13th player, who can broadcast and also directly impact the game by creating events. And it's not just a one-way streak. Viewers can actually interact with the game master as well.
New World is a huge open-ended sandbox game set in our take on 17th century colonial America. In this version of the world, the supernatural is real.
Everything that they were afraid of, everything that they hoped for, that they wanted to believe in, that they wish wasn't true, all of that stuff is real. And there are nature spirits out in the woods, and horrible things hide in the shadows. We talk about, the players are our content. They build villages and farms and towns and forts.
We say carve your own destiny, because you can play the game as you want to be an explorer and go explore this big world. Cool, do that. You want to be a soldier and protect people? Do that. You want to be a farmer?
These permanent spaces that they carve out of kind of this cursed, monster-haunted, hostile wilderness. Whatever they do with it and in it and to one another is really up to them.
Breakaway is a mythological sport brawler where epic warriors from myth and legend team up and face off in fast action competition. And it's played in these mythological locations like El Dorado or Styx or Valhalla or Atlantis. Each of the warriors has unique buildables that they can lean into to fortify their strongholds or to go on these offensive drives. We're very hopeful about the competitive scene, but for now we just wanted to make a game that at its core was just really, really fun to play and really fun to watch.
Development is all about listening to what players want.
We're trying to build great games. Ultimately, customers are going to decide that. And our games, we're going to release them earlier, and we're going to get feedback.
We're going to integrate Twitch into our DNA as we design our games. And that opens up a whole bunch of doors that we haven't tried yet. From new features in games that you haven't seen to a whole new type of game that maybe hasn't been tried yet.
You have the cloud, you have Lumberyard, you have all these tools, you have Twitch. You're at the situation where, man, we need to invent our way through this because there's so much technology required to provide that type of social experience for that many people. Amazon's investing heavily where there's an opportunity to invent new ways for people to have these shared experiences.
A big part of that creative process is iteration. You want to be learning, and the best way to learn and iterate is in the context of the community, in the context of fans.
We're going to make games that are fun to play and fun to watch and fun to play with other people. And that's really the connective tissue, community first.
All right, so you guys can clearly see why that video has a whole bunch of important parts in it.
There's also a bit of a few things that are kind of, a bit redundant now.
Yes. So, like, they talk about New World as being a sandbox. There's a lot of aspects in the game that are sandbox-like, but at the same time,
Its core isn't sandbox anymore. Its
Yeah.
core is more of an RPG.
It's much different than the videos that released last year. You can feel that there's a substantial change in how the game plays. Between the videos from last year and what's been released, there's a huge difference there. Also in that video, there's a whole bunch of artwork that is New World specific that you can see on some of the developers' screens that
Even now we haven't seen.
even now we have not seen. So, there's potentially a lot of stuff there. Also all of that artwork we have on our Discord server. So if you guys want to come to our Discord server, we're more than happy to help you. You don't have to talk with anybody, but if you just want to peruse the art, we've got it all. Everything that has ever been released that is New World related, whether it's been a tiny, or whether it's been a promotional material for Lumberyard or whatever, we've got it on there.
Some that even AGS have kind of gone, how do you have this? Even we don't have this.
Yeah, we
not.
also have the original videos that were on YouTube that have since been taken down. So we have those. So if you want to see them, we've got them. We've got all the original concept art that's been released. We've got all the weapon concept art that's been released. We've got, more screenshots than you could know what to do with. Anything that's out there since 2016, we've got it in a pretty comfortable saying that.
I mean, how you find this stuff, I have no idea. That's a bit of wizardry. Anyway.
That's partly classified.
I could tell you, but I have to.
Yeah. I can't tell you that there's been a number of conversations about how did you get this? Which I'm pretty happy that I'm able to find a lot of this stuff.
At least you haven't had any cease and desists.
True.
At least there's that.
True. I'm waiting for that day, which probably won't come because we're so close to the beta now. So, the fundamental part of that video that's important is that they plan on utilizing player feedback as a huge driver for how do we make a better game that more people are going to be interested in, that more people are going to like, that more people are going to play, and that more people are going to find fun. So if something's not fun, and this comes into just a philosophy of talking to people about how to influence change. If you go in and tell them, "Oh, this is stupid, I want to just refund," okay, they're gonna shrug it off and go, "That doesn't give me anything."
Yeah, it doesn't help them.
But if you turn around and say, "Hey, this mechanic doesn't make any sense, I'm stuck. It's if you could clarify it, make it easier, or make it add it to the tutorial to make it clearer, or something like that," that gives them the feedback to say, "Okay, hey, this is why this individual stopped playing after 10 minutes. Or this is why this individual made it to the late game and then just vanished." Find those things, tell them about it, tell them in detail, and that's what people in the alpha have been doing. That's what people in the beta will need to do, because it's not just, I get to play the game early. It's, hey, try and break it as much as you can, because that's what needs to happen for the best possible game to happen on release. So
it's strange that a lot of people kind of forget about the fact about that particular aspect of game development. Like a lot of people just kind of consider, oh, open beta just means like an early release of the game. I can kind of play it how I want to play it, not give any kind of feedback. Like the whole idea of playing it is to, to be able to gauge and give some feedback at least to the developers, or at least, play it in a way that allows the developers to see the pain points and address them.
Yeah. Or you could just about the same issue all day, every day, even though the developers have been painfully clear about them not wanting to go back to a certain mechanic because it's not the fundamental direction that they want to take the game. And I feel like at a certain point, like there are things obviously you can get them to consider to change, but at a certain point there's also a like, hey, this is pretty obvious that they're committed to this specific thing. Down the road they might add something else, but yeah. And
I mean, I have a bit of an issue with the progression kind of system anyway. But like, I'm kind of looking like, oh, we're at 48 minutes already. Like, even if I go into this, it's going to be add an extra 10 minutes at least.
Go to
it. I don't even know.
Go to it. Go for it.
Because the thing is, right? RPGs.
We get criticism for not being like for just being like, oh yeah, this is all gonna be great. This is gonna be the best thing ever. And I really am interested in what's the potential bad here.
Because my issue is like the system at the moment, or the system as is being demonstrated to us via all the articles and the various different sort of videos and stuff like that they've been released. Like, it all builds onto what is essentially a very, very classic, very, very archaic RPG system, which is skill progression, level progression, etc., to some kind of end state. And yeah, Amazon Games has kind of said, like, there is an end state in terms of you have a level cap and you can kind of you play around inside of there, fair enough. But eventually, what this ends up sort of meaning is, at the end of it all, you're basically not going to be worth anything to anybody until you're at level 60, or until you have progressed to have 60 attribute points available for you to throw into various different places. Because if you're not there yet, then you're essentially less powerful than essentially like any of the other groups that have been in the game for maybe a little bit longer. The issue with that is when it comes to player on player gameplay, because essentially what that means is they could potentially design a system whereby a lot of player skill kind of makes up for a certain degree of lack of player progression. So if you're, say, level 50 and you're fighting a level 60, you're potentially your skill at PvP might be able to make up for that 10 levels less. But that remains to be seen. And chances are that level 60 has been playing the game. If the level progression is going to be logarithmic in scale, basically level 6, essentially, like, when I say that, what I mean is, going from level 59 to level 60 is like a shit ton more work than going from, say, level 1 to level 5. So that level 60 guy has probably got a bunch more skill in PvP and in general in the game than you anyway. So my issue is archaic RPG systems, like, in general, just make it waters down the player skill to basically how long have you been in the game. Holy crap.
Apologies.
And
I've got a large dog who just recently noticed that somebody's walking down the hallway towards our apartment. Sorry.
So yeah, that's my issue. Like, my issue is the fact that the kind of like the leveling system, it's something that has been around in RPGs ever since RPGs have existed. Like, it goes back to D&D, right? It goes back even further to D&D. But the thing is, the way that D&D and the previous sort of games, it was basically like war games. Essentially, you have a bunch of people, a bunch of soldiers on one side, a bunch of soldiers on the other side, and you recreate like epic battles from ancient history. Like, that's where kind of D&D kind of evolved from. But the whole idea of levels and power progression, stuff like that, was essentially to make choosing powerful units to be expensive, because you had a limited pool of maximum points that you could spend to create your army. That's gone from tabletop to RPG games, progressed all the way up until this point. And that's evolved to basically, get as high level as you can, because that's when you're the most useful. And it reminds me of, and this is going to go a little bit fucking academic here, but it reminds me of, where is it? Classics. There is Greek mythology where this guy Sisyphus is basically rolling a boulder uphill forever, and that's what RPG systems invariably force you to do, is grind constantly. And my concern is that games companies get into this mindset of making players grind, and then find out and realize from other titles that they can, offer incentives to those people who are grinding, who are rolling that boulder up the hill all the time, that they can throw money at them and they can, achieve, some shortcuts. And that thing just spirals and spirals and spirals and spirals, and you end up being a fucking bunch of pricks like EA. And I don't want that to fucking happen to Amazon Games.
It's a pretty big level of being a dick to live up to hit EA status.
Well, EA didn't do it in overnight. They got hooked on it, and then they just started to forsake their their bonds of fellowship to their customers. I don't want to see it happening to Amazon Games, but when you get into RPG progression systems, it can turn ugly.
Yeah. And again, I think that's where we turn to and say, hey, we've got some opportunity here to potentially impact how that works. They clearly have stated many times that they're interested in player feedback. They clearly have stated that, hey, this is going to help guide how we develop this. They've also clearly stated that they've got a 10-year plan to support this game into the future. That, I think, is pretty big.
I mean,
also,
there is
in chat, that is a good note as well. EA does make a lot of money, despite the fact that they're dicks.
EA does make a lot of money, but most of that is off the back of stupid things like fucking NBA 2K20 that essentially just monetizes fucking idiots with money.
It's like
the amount of money,
it's like selling a different FIFA every year. It's the same game.
That's exactly it. It's the same game. You're just basically being reset by the fucking developers, and then being told to fucking throw money at them. It's the most, it infuriates the fuck out of me. But, to some degree I can understand if the idiots aren't going to fucking learn, you might as well make money off them, I guess. But like, the people who play games like New World aren't fucking idiots like those people who play NBA 2K.
Yeah, not gonna lie, the way that they have set up
group.
the way that they've set up this game, you really can't be an idiot, because especially in the late game, having this much player control over everything, like, you know, I think it's gonna hurt you if you don't pay attention to the high end mechanics in the late game, or even in the early game. It might be pretty painful.
Oh, we'll see what we'll see. But yeah, sorry, my rant is now over.
Yeah. So for those that have been actually like looking at the images that I've been putting up, this is a lot of the early concept art from the game. So like this is like some 2016 level stuff, which if you haven't seen, get the rest of it on the Discord. Not to keep pushing the Discord, but it's a really cool collection of stuff there.
Fucking horses.
Yeah, that is a horse. That is a horse.
I mean, it's an evil fucking horse, but it's a
Yes.
horse nonetheless.
Clearly been corrupted. This is also the first image that New World released that has the red glowing eyes. So, but it's also interesting that the horse has the red glowing eyes in it too, and that there's a horse. So,
Greg the first corrupted.
there is an article out there. I think it was a PC Gamer article or an IGN article where they stated that they will add horses at a later date if the player base wants them. So I would be very interested to see how the player base reacts to a mount system. You know, is that something that you know you guys think would be worthwhile? Is it not? You know, I think that's going to cause some very spirited debate. And it likely already has.
I just love Katsumushi's kind of comment there. That's Greg, the first corrupted horse. Like it puts me in mind of, you know, the sorcerer named Tim from fucking from Monty Python.
Oh, I really hope that they take a couple of cues from Monty Python. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Oh, like there could be some amazing stuff.
They could add some really funny stuff in there. Yeah.
I definitely didn't message Leon about that. By the way.
Oh god, I'm sure he got a kick out of that too.
I hope he did. Like I don't.
When
know
we get
whether
into
he's read
beta,
it
you
or
guys
not.
will understand that there is some jokes that just can't be told yet, but we will all find a time to laugh about them together.
Yeah.
And I know it's not funny to say an inside joke on a stream that no one else unfortunately can part of, so my bad.
Hey, it just means that this in a month's time or something like that is going to be worthwhile going back and be like, oh, I know this inside joke now. Okay, fair enough.
So yeah, I think that this is going to be some pretty awesome stuff when it comes out. I think that it's going to develop into something really big, and I think that it's got a pretty positive future.
Just don't get fucking tempted by money.
Don't get tempted by
Amazon.
money. Like this like 90% of the game's success, in my opinion, is going to be on whether or not they're reasonable with their cash shop. Which we can hope. Like, you know, please don't dig the grave early. Like,
I swear to God, if I see, you know, shortcut mechanics creep in, I'm gonna get fucking angry.
I
fucking
will
angry.
be the
I'm gonna let
leader of
people
the
know.
goddamn riot if they start putting in like ×2 XP for $5 or something. Like I will lose my shit. You know, yeah. There will be pitchforks in game and out of game, just trying to make them revert anything like that.
Yeah,
now,
convenience
that said,
microtransactions, no fucking way.
That said, cosmetics I come from a background where I
Cosmetics.
played a lot of Warframe, so I really love the idea of cosmetics. I love being able to, change your character, customize them in a fun, unique way. And my sincere hope, absolute sincere hope, is that someone at AGS realizes that I will pay an absurd volume of money to be a Roman legionnaire from the trailer. You have the asset made. Let me be it. Just take my money.
I mean,
yeah.
The capacity for them to do so many different things, like just cosmetically, is amazing. Like you can do Roman, like you wanting to do Roman legions, you could do Greek hoplites, right? You can be like fucking, like just Egyptian stuff, like Mesopotamia kind of stuff, like the fucking,
Well, like, so diving into the
all sorts
lore
of
of
shit.
this, they have left themselves open for utilizing every society out there that has ever existed, because this island has the ability to keep things alive and all of that. We know that the Romans were there. We know the conquistadors were there. We know, there's this ancient culture there. We've seen
Almost has like ancient culture, like the various different like images and videos that we've seen, like it almost looks kind of it looks partly like Aztec almost in nature, but it also has like leniences to sort of ancient pharaohs, like Egyptian-y kind of stuff. Like there's all sorts of like crazy stuff that you can,
So this came out a couple of weeks ago and caused a whole stir. That right there was the front end of a Viking ship. So, like, they could be laying out the groundwork for expansions already. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here that they could go different directions and bring in all these different societies out there. We just have to pay attention for the little breadcrumbs that they're dropping, because clearly they chose this as, hey, here's this broken ship. Why specialize that? Somebody said there's a sail from a Chinese. Yes, there is. Right immediately behind
I'm not
it.
sure.
That
does look like it.
That is a fin sail from a Chinese ship.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, I mean, it kind of looks like it. Yeah, for sure. I don't know whether it's just the perspective that maybe it's not, but it's like a fallen down sail of a side. The kind of like the crossbar of a regular ship, but it does, like, if it's standing straight up and it's kind of like literally at 90 degrees to us, like, yeah, that does look like a sail from, I think, do they call it a junker or something like that? I can't remember what the name is. I think it's that. That does look like it for sure.
That's not the one.
Oh, there we go.
That's not the image that I copied over.
Not the image.
It copied the next one in the file. So anyways, that looks an awful lot like the one that we were showing that has since been closed when I panic closed and it opened up some random dude laying on a sail, like inside a sailboat.
Epic stream fails. Oh, so good.
Yeah. So that happened. So, but obviously they're dropping hints like that.
Nipples.
Yep. There's a whole bunch of fun stuff. They're dropping hints at different things. They've got, the lore has left it open to do whatever it is that they feel like doing. There is a whole bunch of weapons and stuff from the game that are really gonna look cool when this game comes out. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff here. That's a tower shield right there.
Mask, right?
Also, yeah, that's Plague Doctor Mask.
That's rather fitting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
This day and age.
That guy's ready for 2020.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that that would make a comeback? So, but there's all kinds of stuff like that, and I know I've said it a number of times so far in the show here. But if you guys are interested in taking a look through the art, we've got it on our Discord. It's all there. And to the comment, yes, I do need to fix my Streamlabs, because I actually know that's Streamlabs yelling at me to fix Streamlabs. That's a new one. I have now broken Streamlabs to a new level. That's solid gold right there. So anyways, as we do the outro here, I want to remind people tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific time is the start of the PC Gaming Show. There's going to be a major announcement for New World during that show. It's going to be important, going to be big. We have no idea what it is. I can theory craft on what it is. I believe it's going to be the beta launch, or beta date is going to be in it. That's what my hope and belief is. I have no confirmation on there, but that's what I think it's going to be, because it timeline wise it makes sense. It's going to get people hyped for X, Y, and Z, and yeah.
I'm fucking with Streamlabs spot right now.
Yeah. It's yelling at me a lot. So, yeah. Needless to say, tomorrow, big announcement, important. Stay tuned. We're also going to stream tomorrow, so if you'd like to be notified on that, in Twitch, hit that follow button. We're not an affiliated channel, so I'm not going to ask you to subscribe, because guess what? You can't anyways, because we don't actually make any money producing this show. In fact, it's a huge drain on financial resources for me in buying a whole lot of audio equipment and all of that. Oh god!
I told you, dude. I told you. But you were like, no, I'm gonna try this intermediate step first. I'm like, nah, dude, it's just gonna waste money. And you were like, no. So you did it. You're like, this still sucks. And I was like, yeah, it does still suck, doesn't it? Yeah, you're gonna need to get the better shit.
Yep. And then we dropped, what is it, $150 on the Focusrite, $110 on the FX Audio DAC6, then another $300 on the headset with the studio mic, then another.
Which I told you was going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And you weren't sure.
It is pretty
and
awesome.
I was like, it is. And you were just like, and that day when you fucking tried it out, you were like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's so much better. It's so much better. Oh my god. One of these days we'll do like an actual like how this stream is run type show. And give you guys a full view at like the monstrosity of a computer that is sitting in front of me. Because I've got 5 screens, a whole crap load of hardware. It's beauty. Anyways, we're gonna run the outro. I want to thank you guys. This is also the first time we've done a background music. So if you guys like that, let me know. If you don't like that, I guess let me know that as well. That said, these are all royalty-free songs by Harris Heller. Harris Heller is also the guy in charge of Alpha Gaming, who he's got an awesome Twitch stream. It's on many days a week. He's also got this royalty-free music, and I absolutely love what he's putting out there. He's also got a whole bunch of helpful tips and tricks for streamers on his YouTube. Absolutely great guy. So shout out to him.
For sure.
So with that, we're going to roll the outro. Thank you guys for watching the show for what has been almost an hour and 15 minutes. So, awesome. Good times. Have a good one.
Roll the credits.
It is an eternal island of legend. A place of unimaginable beauty. And a growing evil. Where the forces of death and life are in constant conflict. For centuries, many have come in search of its power. Only to fall to its corruption. Lured by the promise of power and immortality. The darkness will claim you.